Are you tired of thinking about drinking, trying to control it, and ending up in the same loop? I know that feeling well. Okay, that's what this is about today. Before we begin, I want to invite you to join me for a free live workshop this summer. If you've read the books, listened to the podcast, taken breaks, and still find yourself having the same conversation with yourself about drinking, this workshop it's a series of workshops. They're all free, and I'm going to help you understand why knowing what to do hasn't been enough to create lasting change, where the stop-start pattern keeps breaking down, and what you can begin practicing differently. This is not another hour of information to save and never use. You'll leave knowing what your next step is and how support can make this process feel a whole lot less overwhelming. You can find all of the workshop details and reserve your free seat through the link in the show notes, okay? I cannot wait to meet you. I hope to see you there. Welcome to the Feel Good Alcohol-Free podcast, where high-achieving women learn how to step out of the stop-start cycle and build a life that feels calm, clear, and alcohol-free on purpose. I am your host, Lindsay. I am an accredited sober coach and former high-functioning drinker. After more than a decade of drinking every night while keeping up a big career and a life that looked really amazing from the outside, I rebuilt my identity from the inside out. Now I help women stop negotiating with themselves and trust their own decisions again. This is not a podcast full of cliches or willpower pep talks. You're getting real conversations, lived experience, coaching, and practical tools that you can use inside your actual life, not perfect conditions. So take a breath. You're here because you're ready to feel good in your real life. Let's get started. Welcome back. I'm so glad that you are spending a little time with me today. So, okay, we're approaching the end of August. Many people have kids going back to school. We're so close to having our regular routines back. And it's one of my least favorite time periods, but also favorite time periods, I guess. So August is my anniversary month of the last time I drank. So on August 10th, I hit 6 years alcohol free. And it's just so incredibly unbelievable to me still that I quit drinking and that this is the life that I lead now when I really look back at it. And I truly can say that from a professional standpoint and a personal development standpoint and all around growth, health, wellness, I have achieved more in this last 6 years than I would say even the rest of my adult life, if I'm being really open about it. And it makes me feel really good. But when you're getting alcohol out of your life, there are periods of time where you can feel really guilty and you can feel mad at yourself because even though you're doing something good for yourself, then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I let it get to this point. Or I can't believe that I spent so many years thinking about this and not doing anything about it. And so we're going to talk about this today. I'm going to talk about so much of my life that I tried to keep alcohol in it through moderation and what that kind of looks like. So anyway, a little bit of a tangent there, but also directly right back to the point of the episode. And it's like August. It's also in one of my group coaching calls the other day, we were talking about August and how it's like we're kind of tired of summer because we're craving the routines. And the whole month of August is very similar to the week between like Christmas and New Year's, where it's, I don't know, I'm kind of ready for the new year to start to get back into my routines. But I don't want any commitments. I don't want to do anything. I just want to eat cookies and leftover Christmas goodies or holiday goodies and wear my sweatpants and watch television. And I'm kind of getting into that. I'm in the fatigue of longer days and I'm sick of my summer salads. This girl is ready to make a macaroni and cheese and apple crisp. So I don't know. That's just a little note about me. And this topic came up during the group call, and it is evident to me that we are craving our routines. So I'm going to talk today about this period of my life where I could solve almost any problem. I was always well known as somebody who, like, Lindsay's going to be able to solve this. And not only am I good at solving problems, I'm very good at removing complexity from situations and then breaking down in the most efficient way how to like solve them and how to get to the other side of them, which is why I think I am so well suited for this work when it comes to quitting drinking and helping other women do it, because quitting drinking is very complex, as we've talked about. It hits all of the emotions. It hits so many different layers of our lives. And so when we start to think about, oh my gosh, I need to quit drinking, or I'm never going to drink again, or I can't think about forever, that becomes very overwhelming. So part of my expertise is breaking down the journey so that you're also not bringing the focus to alcohol, but you're bringing the focus to how you want to be living. And this is really a very important distinction, because when you focus on just the alcohol piece and the not drinking piece, that keeps alcohol at center stage in your life. And we don't want that. We want to move on from this and then never think about it again. And that's what you're going to be able to do. That's what I've done. I mean, if it wasn't for the work that I did, I wouldn't think about alcohol at all. But I've chosen to do this because there's something that is just more important to me than anything else right now. And that is that I never want a woman to feel the way that it feels to be disappointed in herself because of her drinking. And I know that feeling so well. And I know that it's inevitable when you're going through this journey. But I also know that I can help you protect yourself from that and move through it versus feel stuck in it all the time. And that's also what moderation did to me. It made me just feel stuck in it all the time. And, back to this problem solving side of me, I could lead a team. I had an amazing career that I'd built. I could handle any crisis. I could make a plan. I could work the plan, and I could get the results that were expected of me and that I desired. But I could not figure out why I kept drinking when I said I wouldn't. Why did that keep happening? And you probably ask yourself the same thing. Why do I keep saying I'm only going to have one glass, but I never can seem to have just one glass? And believe me, I tried to figure this out. I had so many rules around my drinking. I would take breaks from drinking. I would spend every single morning listening to audiobooks, around Quit Lit, This Naked Mind, all of the books. I listened to podcasts. I promised myself every single week I was going to start on Monday, but that would happen every single week on repeat. And I would change the rules when the old rules stopped working. Anytime I needed a justification to drink and I was basically breaking a rule, I would layer on a new rule on top of it. And it all just became so much more to manage. So I spent so many years trying to become this normal drinker before I was willing to consider that moderation might be the thing that was actually keeping me stuck. Moderation keeps your focus around alcohol. And that's all it does. And so you may take a break for, 30 days or something. And then maybe you go to a wedding and you have a few drinks and you're like, wow, that was really good. I only had a few drinks. And then maybe you say, okay, I'm going to start my break again. I'm going to go back onto another break. And maybe you last a couple of days or a couple of weeks even. But I really want you to think about, how much time did you spend thinking about whether or not you were going to drink at that wedding after, you've been in a break from alcohol? How much time did you spend worrying about whether or not you were going to drink too much? How many rules did you create around how you were going to spread out the drinking for that night? Or how much water you are going to drink, or all of these things. See how that still keeps the focus around alcohol when you could just be going to the wedding, not drinking, and getting home at a decent hour or back to your hotel room or whatever, and getting up the next morning and getting a workout in or sleeping in or whatever it is, but feeling good. And so it's moderation keeps the focus around alcohol. There's always going to be some sort of rule associated when you're trying to moderate your drinking. And that for me is what kept me so incredibly stuck. So today I'm going to bring some light around some of the things that I tried before I admitted that moderation wasn't working for me. I recently did a series on this on Instagram, so you can see a lot of shorter videos on this on my Instagram page, but I really wanted to kind of put a big bow on this and put it into one episode. So this isn't because every single one of these things that I tried was bad or useless. Some of them actually really helped me because every single attempt at these, I guess rules, we'll call them, gave me more information. But for so long, like I said, I kept using that information to create another drinking rule instead of letting it tell me what I already knew. If you've been trying to change your drinking for a while, I have a feeling that you're going to recognize yourself somewhere in this episode. So, okay, the first area here is that I just kept making these new rules. And this was probably my favorite strategy because I'm very good at making rules. I'm very good at keeping rules. And in general, at least I'm good at rules in almost every other area of my life. So I could decide that I was going to get up early, I was going to work out, I would hit a goal, or I would follow through for something, work related. I would do it. I would always do it. So I assumed that drinking would work the same way. I would decide in the morning that I wasn't going to drink that night. And sometimes I felt like incredibly committed to that decision. I meant it. Then 3, 4 o'clock would come around and the justifications would start rolling around in my head. I'd be negotiating with that rule. Maybe I would drink tonight and take tomorrow off. Maybe I would just wait until like 6 o'clock. Like I would get home and I had to do something else first from work. Maybe I would only have 2 tonight. Maybe tonight counted because work had been stressful. My rules didn't apply when work was stressful, which by the way, work was always stressful. Maybe I should just wait until Monday. Maybe Monday would be a easier day. Clean slate Monday. I'm just going to wait until Monday. All these things that would keep the rule changing because the goal underneath the rule wasn't really to understand my relationship with alcohol. The goal was to keep drinking without experiencing the parts of drinking that I didn't like. So I wanted that first glass. I just didn't want everything else that came with it. I didn't want to drink more than I planned. I didn't want to be the middle of the night wake up person anymore. I didn't want that morning guilt. I didn't want to make another promise to myself and then watch myself break it at the end of the day. It was exhausting. So I wanted alcohol to just suddenly behave differently for me. And every time it didn't, I assumed that I needed a better rule. So if you have a whole collection of drinking rules, I really want you to pay attention to that. Not so that you can criticize yourself. I want you to look at it as evidence. How often do you need to think about the rule? How often does the rule change? And how much of your day is spent planning, negotiating, counting, recovering? Sometimes moderation sounds flexible because alcohol is still available to you. But my experience of moderation required a staggering amount of mental supervision. It was totally exhausting. Okay, the next one. I kept starting over. I was also very familiar with the fresh starts, okay? Monday, the first of the month, after the vacation, after the event, after the holidays, after I finished what was already in the house. There was always a future version of me who was going to handle drinking better. Every week, at least. So she was very disciplined. She never had stressful Thursdays. She apparently had no social plans, holidays, difficult conversations, or any reason to celebrate ever. The very convenient woman. Completely fictional, she was, but she was very convenient. So the fresh start gave me relief. And the reason is because this way I could feel like I had addressed the problem without having to do anything differently yet. My plan was for Monday, not today. So the plan started later, but you know what? Like I had a plan. I had one. Then if I drank after the start date, I treated the whole attempt as ruined. I would tell myself I had failed again. I'd return to my usual drinking and I would wait for the next clean, starting point, a new clean slate, usually the following Monday. Sometimes it might have been really bad and I had to push it to the following month because I was so mad at myself. And what I understand now is that one drink or even one night of drinking never erased what I had practiced or learned. It was that next decision that mattered so much more than the fact that I had drank earlier. I didn't need to keep starting over. I needed to stop turning one decision into a reason to abandon myself for the rest of the night or the weekend or the month. There were so many times where I would be on a break and I'd cave on Wednesday and I would drink on Wednesday and I would use that as drinking for the next 5 days. And then, I blew it. So I guess I'll start again next Monday. What? That is not useful. So that is something that I teach my clients now. When we go through these situations, it's just information for you. It's not proof that you failed or that you can't do it. So we have to look at, what happened before you had that drink. What did you really need in that moment? What are you learning about this? What's the next supportive choice that you can make? Those questions create movement. I blew it, so I'll start again on Monday keeps you circling the same block, that same exact routine over and over again. So the next thing is I consumed a lot of information. I read so many Quit Lit books. I listened to podcasts. I went away to places where I could step out of my regular life and think. I never went to rehab, but I would often go on mini yoga retreats where I thought for sure that I would come back and I would be a new person. And all of those things did matter, okay? But the way that I treated myself when I would drink is what mattered more. I still remember reading, Catherine Gray, The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober, and beginning to see like another version of an alcohol-free life. And I also read A Happier Hour by Rebecca Weller. I went to Kripalu. It's a yoga and wellness center. And I love going to Kripalu. I go there often. And I took in a lot of information that helped me question what I had accepted as normal for many years. Just like you are now listening to this podcast, I used to do this and I would read the books and I would read the information about what alcohol was doing to my brain and my body. But there was also a period where learning just became another place for me to hide. I could continue to learn about this and it would feel really productive, but I didn't actually have to change yet. I hope that's landing. And I could understand why I was drinking, but I would still pour the glass of Sauvignon Blanc. I could relate to every single story, underline half the book, highlight it, flag the pages, and tell myself I was working on it. Information helped me see the problem. Practice is what eventually helped me change my life. There is a point where you don't need one more single fact or inspirational story about alcohol. You need support using what you already know in the moment when you usually drink. You need a plan for Friday night. You need to know what to say when your husband asks you if you want a glass of wine. You need to eat before this daily negotiation begins. You need something to look forward to that's not drinking, quite frankly. And that was also a very difficult piece for me. I often say quitting drinking is a self-discovery journey like none other because you are really learning all about what you like and what you enjoy. And so it can be really hard to figure out what you even look forward to that's not alcohol. You need to practice going to dinner without drinking, taking a trip, celebrating, being disappointed, and ending a hard workday without making alcohol the answer. Now, knowledge can open that door, but you have to walk. You have to walk the walk. You have to go through the door and practice. This is so incredibly important. And most of all, the most important part is that when you have a slip, you don't look at it as failure. If you think about how athletes have to practice, people don't break home run records their first year out. They're out there hitting balls like crazy. I'm terrible at these sports analogies. I remember when I was a kid, actually, this is so relevant. And my brother played basketball and I never understood. My dad used to make my brother go outside every single night and practice his free throws. He was out there all the time practicing his free throws. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't want to ever play basketball because my dad is going to make me practice my free throws all the time. But my brother was so good at basketball. And it's like, this is the thing, but he didn't start that way. He didn't start because he missed all of the free throws in the beginning. And so This is the thing. We have to practice. So your first dinner out with your partner or with some friends, you are practicing not drinking. If you have a drink while you're practicing, it doesn't mean that you failed. It just gives you information. You're learning. So, okay, let's move on. And I promise no more half-baked sports analogies for the rest of the episode. Okay, the other thing is taking breaks from drinking. I want to spend a little bit more time on this one because we're heading towards September and you may already be thinking about doing Sober September. Taking a break from drinking is always good. I am never going to tell a woman that 30 days without alcohol doesn't matter because she isn't prepared to make a lifetime declaration. 30 days can give you better sleep, clarity, confidence, and extremely useful information. However, it is important to think about why you are taking the break and what you want the break to teach you. I took a 30-day break and then I returned to drinking. And for me, part of the goal had been proving that I could take the break. I wanted evidence that I was still in control. So see, this is how it kind of comes back into moderation. If I could stop for 30 days, I could tell myself that the problem wasn't really that serious. Then I could go back and try to drink differently. How many times have you taken a break and then been, oh, I'm never going to go back to drinking the way I did before? Come on. I used to do that every single time. The break became a way to basically earn permission to drink again. This is that reward brain piece. So that doesn't mean that the break was wasted. It gave me evidence that I could live without alcohol. It gave me a glimpse of how I could feel. I simply wasn't ready yet to use that evidence in a different way. And there's another reason that named breaks can feel so safe. When you tell your husband or your friends or your coworkers, I'm doing Sober September or I'm doing Dry January, the month does this like explaining for you. You don't have to back it up with anything. People understand it. You have a reason. It has a beginning and it has an end, and you can order the alcohol-free drink without feeling like you've announced this permanent identity change to the entire table. So that safety can be very useful. And I want you to use it, but do not only use the month to practice not drinking. Use it to learn how you want to show up around alcohol and other people when you're not drinking, if that makes sense. Pay attention to the moments when you want the challenge to speak for you and practice finding the language that feels good in your mouth, because eventually September is going to end. At some point, you may be standing in your kitchen on a Friday night and your husband's going to ask you whether or not you want a glass of wine. He may think he's being loving. Wine might have been the reward you shared at the end of the week. He may have heard you say that you wanted to take a break, but he doesn't understand what support needs to look like now. This is where when you think he should know, usually isn't enough. You may need to say, I know offering me wine has been one of the ways that we relax together, but I'm trying to build a different Friday night routine. The most helpful thing you can do is just stop offering it to me. If I want something, I'm going to get it myself. You may need different language with a friend. I'm not drinking tonight. I'm still not drinking. I feel better this way. I haven't decided what this means, but I know that I don't want to drink tonight. Alcohol isn't working for me anymore, and I'm giving myself some real space from it. Or simply, no thanks, I'm good. But we have to find the language that feels natural and true to us when we don't have that safety net of saying, oh, I'm doing Sober September. And there's no like gold star for giving everybody full access to the most vulnerable parts of your decision. You can be very truthful in your answer while still protecting yourself. You get to decide who receives the full story and who receives one sentence or who receives no explanation at all as to why you're not drinking. And that is a skill. This is something that I practice with my clients because the right words will sound different for each woman and each relationship that you're in. And the goal isn't to memorize this perfect script for your response. The goal is to find language that really just honors the decision that you're making without leaving you feel too exposed, especially not feel apologetic, or most importantly, like dishonest, because if we're making up excuses as to why we're not drinking, that's not going to feel good. Even if they're little white lies, they don't feel good. So if you're considering Sober September, please do it. But before September begins, I really want you to decide what it is that you want from it. Do you want to prove that you can get through 30 days? Do you want to feel better physically? Do you want to interrupt a pattern that's taken over your evenings? Do you want to find out who you are socially without alcohol? Do you want to practice saying what you actually need from your partner? Do you want to see what becomes possible when alcohol isn't taking up so much space in your brain? Your intention around Sober September is going to shape what you notice and what you practice throughout the month. Okay, one of the other things is I kept asking whether my drinking was bad enough. Okay, during moderation, for so many years, I would compare my drinking to other people's drinking. I could always find someone who drank more than I did, had bigger consequences, or fit some image that I did not recognize as myself. So that comparison let me avoid a much more useful question. Was alcohol working for me? I didn't need to prove that my drinking was bad enough by somebody else's standards. I knew what it was costing me. I knew about the morning promise and the 4 o'clock negotiation. I knew how much mental space it took. Most importantly, so much mental space. I knew how it felt to watch myself do the thing I had promised myself I wouldn't do over and over again. And I knew I did not want to spend the next 5 years having the same conversation with myself. You are allowed to make a change because your current experience is no longer acceptable to you. You do not have to wait for a big catastrophe. You do not need a more impressive reason. Wanting to trust yourself again is enough reason to begin. So here's what really finally changed and turned the corner for me. The biggest change was not that I finally found this perfect rule to manage my drinking. It was that I stopped making moderation the goal. I stopped asking, how can I keep alcohol and eliminate every consequence I don't like? And I started asking, what would my life feel like if alcohol stopped being my answer to stress, celebration, boredom, connection, and the end of a workday? Then I practiced that. I practiced the 5 o'clock hour. I practiced weekends. I practiced telling my husband what I needed. I practiced celebrations, hard days, vacations, and the ordinary Tuesday night where work had sucked. I practiced long enough to collect evidence that I could rely on myself, that I could do all of those things without drinking. So that is the work that I now describe as identity, practice, and trust within my methodology with my clients. Identity is becoming the woman who no longer needs alcohol to cope, relax, celebrate, or belong. What does she do every day? It's you self-discovering yourself. Practice is learning the skills and making the next supportive decision in real life, in the moment, at the dinner, on Friday night in the kitchen where your husband's about to ask you if you want a glass of wine. And trust is the evidence that you collect every single time you follow through. Sobriety is the result, but building that self-trust within yourself is what makes it possible. So if you recognize yourself in the rules, the breaks, the books, and the Monday promises, I don't want you to decide that none of it worked. I want you to look at what all of it is teaching you, what all of it has taught you. You have evidence now. You know which situations are the hardest. You know what happens after that first drink. You know how much time the negotiations take. You know how you feel when you wake up clear-headed, and you may know that you are already ready to stop running the same experiment. So for the next 48 hours, I want you to choose 3 alcohol-free wins that you can create on purpose. They don't need to be enormous. Make a plan for that hour when you usually begin negotiating. Maybe that's 2, 3, 4 o'clock. Maybe tell one person specifically how to support you. Maybe that's your partner. Maybe that's a friend. Eat before you reach the point where everything feels harder. For the love of God, please have a snack at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and make it more than a peach, okay? We need a little balanced snack. Decide what you'll say if someone offers you a drink. Put something on the calendar that you genuinely want to wake up clear for. Those choices are how you begin creating evidence that you can trust yourself, okay? If you haven't downloaded it yet, I have a free video and worksheet called 3 Wins in 48 Hours to help you do exactly that. You can find it through the link in the show notes, or come find me on Instagram at Lindsay_Henneke and comment or DM me the word wins, and you're going to automatically get the link to that. And again, if you have not attended one of the Feel Good AF Fridays, the last session is this Friday, and it could be a little while before I offer another free workshop. The link to attend is also in the show notes. I hope to see you there on Friday. This is the last one. Today is August 19th. So the final Feel Good AF Friday is Friday, August 21st. And it might be a little bit before I host another free workshop. So I hope to see you there. Thank you for listening to the Feel Good Alcohol Free podcast. If this episode landed for you, it would mean a lot if you left a review or take a quick screenshot of it and share it on social media. That's how this show reaches more women who are ready to stop living in the drinking loop and start leading themselves with confidence again. I'm on a mission to change the way high-achieving women think about alcohol, because you don't need more willpower or more rules around your drinking. You need real support, real tools, and the truth about what's actually possible for you. So keep showing up for yourself, keep telling the truth about what you want. And remember, the life you want isn't found in a glass or a bottle of wine. It's built in the decisions that you can stand behind, the ones that you feel really good about. My DMs are always open, and I can't wait to get to know you better. I will see you next week in the next episode.